Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's a real privilege to be with you, especially after that fantastic keynote, Free Rovo for All, super exciting. Certainly in Atlassian Foundation, we've had a lot of benefit from Rovo, so I can't wait to see what everyone else also makes of it too. The three organizations we have up here are early adopters of Rovo. They are Trailblazers, and they'll be sharing with you how they are driving impact through that human-AI collaboration. Before we get started, I wanted to take you back a few years to 2019 to rural Bangladesh. I was there in a village about an hour outside Barishal, a city called Barishal, and I was there for the opening of a health clinic, actually. This was a small clinic that was started by the women of that village. It was a real privilege for me to be there. The reason I was in the country is I was working at an international health organization, and we were exploring how AI could help detect for a particular eye disease called diabetic retinopathy. The reason that's important is because in low-resource settings, it's very difficult to get to a highly specialized doctor like an ophthalmologist. There's a lot of barriers, there's time, distance, cost. And the reason that's important is because of that, you have a much higher risk of going needlessly blind. So as I was in this room, in this health clinic with these amazing women who'd done something truly remarkable, I heard from them the difference that technology would make to them. They told me about the difference for their families, for the health workforce, for the teams that were in that clinic. And it was the first time I really understood what Mike spoke about in the keynote, that human-AI collaboration to create impact. And I think it was that promise all of those years ago that is being fulfilled right now, that hopefully you will also achieve with Rovo, that our three organizations have been achieving over the past few months, and I can't wait to share their stories with you. So let's jump in. So I'm delighted to be joined by our three panelists. We have Tapiwa Samkange, who's the Director of Technology and Innovation at Teach for All. We have Pavan Sonty, who in his day job is a senior engineer working in tech, but volunteers with an organization called Joining the Dots. And we have Moon Lee, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Braven. So can I get a round of applause for our panelists, please? So I'm hoping you can each share a little bit about the context of your organizations to try and make this relatable for everyone in the audience. So can you each talk about your organization's mission, the size and scale of your operations, as well as how long you've been using Rovo for? So Tapiwa, could you kick us off?
Sure, thanks Farzad. So our organization is a non-profit in the educational sector, and it's a global network of over 60 independent, locally led organizations which work together towards a mission whereby we believe that through collective leadership, we can help every child and all children achieve their potential. We've been using Rovo now for just since July last year, because we were privileged to be part of the beta program.
Pavan.
So I'm from Joining the Dots Foundation, in short known as JTD. It's a voluntary-led NGO operating mainly in rural parts of the state of Andhra Pradesh in India. So we're a lean voluntary-led organization with not more than 20 people working at a given point of time. Our portfolios are diverse in the sense we help school kids in education, and where 30 of the students have secure jobs in software industry. And then sports, where 100 plus students have competed in district, state, and national championships. And health, where we provide health kits like hearing aids, masks during pandemic, prosthetic legs, etc. That's briefly about our organization. So we are constantly looking for the ways to take off the administrative burden from our volunteers. 5 years back, we took help of Confluence and Jira, and ever since we're on the constant lookout for the new solutions. Yeah.
Thanks, Pavan. Moon.
Yeah, hi. So Braven is a US-based national nonprofit whose mission is to empower promising college students, typically from low-income or first-generation backgrounds, and impart upon them the skills, confidence, networks, and experience necessary to transition from college into really strong first economic opportunities, which will lead to hopefully meaningful careers and impact. We do that with currently 8 universities and college partners, over 75 employment partners, thousands of volunteers, and about 200 staff, and of course, about 12,000 students, both former and present, that have taken our program, which is a credit-bearing accelerator that we deploy in our partner schools, as well as supports after the accelerator. We've been using Atlassian tools, specifically Confluence and JSM, for the last year or so, and we're making a transition as well for our project management to go into Jira. We've been using Atlassian Intelligence, and now Rovo, for probably about the last 6 months in a few pilot use cases.
So it's interesting that there's 3 very different organizations. We have an international, very large nonprofit working across 60 countries with Teach for All, a small volunteer-led organization that's based in the community with Joining the Dots, and then a US-based national organization with Braven, all of them getting benefit out of Rovo and that collaboration. So let's jump into that. I'm really keen to hear from each of you about your Rovo journeys. What was the problem that you were trying to solve in your organizations? How did you arrive at Rovo as the solution? And what has been the impact that you have seen since implementing it? Tapiwa.
Okay, so our core organization is made up of about 200 staff members. And we've got teams who are highly motivated, very focused people who are mission-driven because we truly believe in our mission. Now, we've grown exponentially as an organization over the years. And you do have these amazing nuggets of knowledge in people's minds, maybe on their laptops or siloed in some folders somewhere. And so one of the challenges that we noticed and that we realized we needed to solve as an organization was around knowledge management, specifically knowledge discovery. And we were looking at different ways of doing this. And way before we heard about Rovo as an organization, we were already carrying out some internal consultations regarding knowledge management, how we can better organize our information. We're also a very big Google Workspace user as an organization. And so being able to curate our information better and being able to better signpost where it's located were some of the things that we were doing. And also we've been using Atlassian's products for a number of years now. So when Atlassian Intelligence came onto the scene, we felt we could sort of see the potential there. But when we heard about Rovo at Team 24, that really opened up the mind, because we had also been thinking about, there's just so much information. How do we make sense of it? How do we easily find it? And we were looking at various tools on the market as well.
And since that time, the journey that you've had, what kind of impacts have you seen following your implementation?
Well, starting off, I'll take myself as an example. So I facilitate a number of meetings, and I know for a fact that I'm saving at least 1 hour to 1.5 hours each week just from being able to use Rovo to help to organize my meeting notes, be able to take those transcripts and convert them into something that's easy for other folks to consume. And that's been already super helpful. But also we've got a team that has developed a library of resources around proposals, around funding, and they had been curating this for a couple of years at least. It's a confluence space. And so enter Rovo. No longer do they have to point people to the space or go and find information around, what were some of the tee-ups that we used all those years ago, or what are the best approaches for this specific sponsor, etc. Rovo does that for them now. And I spoke to them recently in preparation for this event, and I asked them, how is this helping you? And they were like, wow. And then we had a discussion about agents, set up an agent for them in Rovo, and the response has just been incredible. So it just feels like this is just the beginning of something awesome.
Yeah, and now with the teamwork graph, it'll be even more powerful as well. Pavan, it'd be great to hear from you from JTD, that volunteer-led organization lens.
Certainly. So as I was saying, we are on the constant lookout for the software solutions that could improve our reduce our administrative task burdens. So last year, one of the founders, he attended Atlassian's Teams 2024, and that's how he found out about Rovo. And so he introduced that to us. So first task that came to our mind is onboarding new volunteers. So that is the bulkiest administrative task, we have to say, because whenever a new volunteer comes in, it takes nearly 3 weeks to get them acquainted with all the processes of JTD and what they can do at the field and what are our various projects and other stuff. And for the existing volunteers, it used to take around 1 week of their time to ramp up the new volunteer folks. So what we thought is, given that we have this data in Confluence and Jira, can we plug it into Rovo and see how volunteers would do with that? And so we came up with a questionnaire of 5 to 10 questions and handed those questions to the new volunteers and asked them to use the chat functionality in Rovo and look for the answers, and that's it. That's pretty much where we left them. And the results were surprising from the get-go. So within a week, most of the new volunteers, they got acquainted with all the projects JTD is doing, the process we are involved in, and what they're supposed to do with in the field work. And for the existing volunteers, while it was taking nearly 1 week of their time, it came down to several hours on how much they need to be involved to clarify the doubts of the new volunteers. So that is a huge benefit for us. I would say it maps to really 3 to 4 people working, people's work, what Rovo has taken care of. While this is the expected and pleasantly surprising part, which we are hoping, one of the unexpected outcome is also data discoverability, similar in the lines what Tapiwa was mentioning. So a few years back, we had this amazing project where we were helping the school children to learn. And at its peak, it was helping thousands of kids. So we have to bring in the high schoolers who can read and help the middle schoolers who cannot read. So it's a group task, involves socializing and all. I think one of the slides will be describing that. So as you can see in the pictures, that's how it used to be. But when the pandemic hit, we have to pause this program because of the socializing and all. And ever since, we did not get back to it because of the volunteers kept changing and stuff. But good that it popped out with Rovo, which otherwise would have been lost, I have to tell. And another surprising part is the new volunteer, her name is Harita. She's the one who stumbled upon the project and came up with it, which is also amazing, actually. Right now, we are picking up the project again, and we reached out to several schools, and right now 200 kids have registered. So hopefully we'll get to the peak and more this time. So those are the two major benefits we saw so far: onboarding reduction and data discoverability.
So I mean, that's incredible. So let's just pause on those two. So firstly, with the onboarding, and that relates to HR service management that was just announced. A new onboarding template, for example, where we're seeing the proof of that right there. So from 3 weeks down to 1 week for a volunteer. And for a volunteer-led organization, That's critical because then they're out in the field much quicker. They're not stuck behind a computer and doing administration. And then for the person who's doing the onboarding, down from 1 week to a few hours is incredible.
Yes, that's really, it helps us to focus on the field work, and it's really what we were hoping and what we are looking out for.
And then your second use case is sort of mind-blowing in a way that, so this is a photo from the previous time it ran before the pandemic, and a volunteer came in, and from one Rovo search, they thought, well, why aren't we doing this? And now it's happening. There's now hundreds of students that will be reached.
Yes, and if I have to put perspective on that, I would say, if it is for the senior volunteers, there would have been a bias or so because, it was paused because of several reasons, and that could be the reason they're not sharing with the new volunteers. And Rovo has stepped out of that human bias and presented the project to the new volunteer, which is why a new volunteer who is like 1 week old into the org is able to take up on this project and found her interest with this project and started contributing to this.
I just think that's incredible. Can we get a round of applause for the volunteer? I mean, that's incredible.
Thank you. Thanks.
So from one Rovo search, so it's sort of mind-blowing in a way.
Yes, it did. We were, we were appalled for the next 1 week. We were like, okay, there are a lot of things that can be, come out of this. And the amazing part of it is how much potential just the new joinee would have. And if we let them do their work in a free manner without any biases or any other things, how could they contribute right away? Those are the two major.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moon, it would be great to hear the perspective from Braven.
Yeah, absolutely. So Braven has been undergoing a period of rapid growth in terms of our staff and our impact. And as part of that growth, we've been really focusing on operational excellence and efficiency and streamlining work. And a big part of that is how we work together. Being a very high-touch organization where we're working with thousands of students and volunteers, we need to onboard them, we need to coordinate, there's a lot of logistical information that needs to be communicated on a regular basis. We had a situation where, like Tapiwa's organization, we were very heavily invested in Google Docs and Slack. These silos of information that weren't necessarily connected or talking to each other, and it was very challenging often to find the right piece of information at the right time in order to deliver the service, the results, the information necessary to our volunteers, even amongst our staff. When looking at a document, for example, maybe it's been edited a few times, it's been copied a few times. Where's the most recent information? How do I find it? So that was one distinct use case that we were hoping to solve through some effective knowledge management using Confluence. And that was the beginning of our journey. We also have been starting to use JSM for a lot of our service work, whether it's IT or HR, things like that, just to help coordinate, centralize, and do that type of work more effectively and track it as well. So along those two use cases, where Rovo and Atlassian Atlassian Intelligence has helped us as we've embarked on this journey is one, we were really excited about the federated search capabilities. So we have these silos of information. How do we pull together the right information at the right time, in the most effective way to serve our students and to coordinate our work and maximize our impact. So we've been rolling out Rovo. So through Confluence, we can now see different conversations and surface information that has been occurring in a variety of different channels, which has been it's been effective, and we're hoping it's going to really accelerate as our staff becomes more acclimated to using these Atlassian tools and especially these new AI-based ones.
And I think what we just heard then was, Rovo working across the system of work will just supercharge its capabilities.
Absolutely, yeah, that is our hope, and I think we'll get to that a little bit later. At least I'll mention a few things we're looking at. But Another area, like I mentioned, is we're a service organization, so we have thousands of volunteers and students that we serve every semester and every year. And we have a product support team that is, monitors an inbox and is responding to requests. And our team is not small. We're a fairly lean organization, so we were really looking at how do we maximize the time and the effectiveness of the staff that we have in the best way. And when we switched over to Jira Service Management for that work, we were quickly excited to see a lot of these things that Rovo was developing, and we heard more this morning. But like virtual service agents, for example, and the ability in a service portal for the requester to chat and get some immediate answers. Our classes are happening at all hours of the day, different time zones, and our product support team isn't always going to be available to immediately respond to a request. By using Rovo and virtual service flows that are hooked into our knowledge base and Confluence and other documents, it's a potential game changer for us in terms of being able to respond and enable our program without necessarily leaning so much on scaling our human capacity as well. So that's been something that we've been keeping a very close eye on, and we hope to really accelerate as we continue our journey investing in Atlassian tools.
Sorry.
Yeah, go. That's it.
I was just going to say, I think that's a great use case for Rovo as your teammate as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I want to go into the how a little bit more. So in hearing about your journeys, I know one thing that I hear quite a lot as a challenge is deployment, and responsible deployment specifically. And I know that's probably on the mind of a lot of people in this room as well. I'm curious to hear how you managed deployment, did so responsibly, and the other half of that is how you then ensured adoption within your organizations. Pavan, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so given the size of our organization, we did not go through the major deployment steps or processes. So it was pretty much plug and play sort of thing, where we went to the portal and found out what needs to be done, how the connections could be made to the current data sources, and got the ground and kept going with that, which I would say is a major advantage for the organizations like us, because like I was saying, the purpose is to reduce the burden. If it would have been added to the administrative task, maybe we could have paused it or procrastinated to that extent. So straight away, working with the existing docs with simple configurations is one thing which we like most about Rovo. That's the deployment. We did go through some of the data hygiene and processing paths. We found out that we have addresses of the past volunteers, phone numbers, etc. and stuff. So we redacted them. But in the retrospection, if we were to do it again, we would have gone through to see if there are any guidelines regarding setting up the policies, and are there any best practices, and we would have gone through and then connected the data sources.
I think that's a very relatable story, especially in smaller organizations where you may skip a few steps. You're small, you're scrappy, you want to move fast. So I appreciate you sharing that learning as well.
Yeah. What we found is one of our volunteers have checked it and found, okay, this is easy. Maybe we could onboard the other volunteers also through remote screen sharing, because not all the time we'll be in the rural parts of the place where we're doing the field work. So just with the remote sessions and the screen shares, we were able to pass on most of the knowledge on how to use Rovo. And we asked new volunteers also to give it a try before they meet us personally in the upcoming days. And most of the knowledge sharing was through Rovo, and when they joined us, they already have good enough understanding of what JTD is and how things would work. So yeah, I would say it's just remote sharing and remote sessions.
Yeah, so the remote sessions and then that plug and play aspect and cleaning up your data hygiene as well.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
Moon, what was it like at Braven for deployment and adoption?
Yeah, so we had a Braven, and this may, you may experience this in some of your organizations, people don't necessarily like change, even if the things that they're doing are not necessarily the best way. So, you know, when it comes to changing the culture and around information and how we work together, it's important to understand the needs of all of the various teams. And so we hired a director of knowledge management in order to assist us in our transition from, you know, a little bit of chaos into something more orderly and strategic that is tool enabled and has all of these AI capabilities. So in order to do that, our director of knowledge management, she worked with all of our, went team by team, understood their needs, understood, you know, how their knowledge was structured, what documents they had, what resources they had, what really should stay in Google Drive, but what really should be kept in Confluence as, you know, evergreen information. How that information be structured, what's that taxonomy. So she was really in charge of it all and created the strategy for us and did a lot of the guiding and the work that really helped us all get on the same page and move in the same direction. As we were rolling that out, we've also been migrating our teams from Asana to Jira for our project management. That's been a very major project, but again, we're hoping to unlock quite a bit through that shift with our productivity gains. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of change management that we had to navigate and negotiate with our teams, as well as the timing and scheduling and all that. As on the AI side of things, we did provide our staff with some AI training. A lot of our staff didn't necessarily know, like 6 months ago, you know, what is the buzz and how do I use these tools in my workflow? How do I understand AI? What are the risks? What are the ethical implications? What are the privacy implications? So I created an AI policy that I started to socialize in the company that made it clear, like, hey, AI is a powerful tool, but you got to know kind of how to use it and what its capabilities are, but also what are some of the risks, whether it's hallucinations or uploading, you know, in our case, student data up into the AI, or, you know, sensitive information, just really understanding, you know, what some of those risks are, in addition to how to use it best for your workflow. So some of that education we've been investing in, and that's also been really helpful as well, and has really laid the groundwork for things like Rovo to come into the organization and for them to start understanding instinctively, oh, okay, you know, I know what's going on here, I know what some of the possibilities are and how to use them in my workflow.
So that very practical level, upskilling the workforce. And then I'm so glad you raised the point of change, because that really stood out for me in Anu's keynote just then, where I think she said, convincing people of change is the hardest part of any transformation, and especially technology. Yeah. So I really appreciate you raising that change management approach as well. Tapiwa, your organization is across multiple geographies, and so there's complexities there around data. How did you manage the deployment and adoption?
So firstly, when we were thinking about adopting Rovo, we needed to have certain assurances for ourselves as an organization. So as the technology and innovation team, we're a really small team. And in my role as the product owner for Atlassian products, speaking with our CTO, Matt Orion, we sort of thought, okay, we know that we've been using Confluence, we've been using Jira as an organization. Not everyone is using it, but also we can see the potential of this tool, Rovo. We know that a lot of our staff, in fact, everyone uses Google Workspaces. How well does it work with Google Workspaces? So what we did was, firstly, setting up a sandbox rather than deploying straight to production, because, yeah, that just didn't feel comfortable. And we set up a sandbox, and because we're part of the beta program, we were able to get into contact with the Rovo team, so people like Izzy, for example, who was super helpful, very responsive when we had any questions. So for instance, we had one issue with the setting up the connection between Rovo and Google Workspace. And that was because the documentation or the interface had then changed on the Google end, but very quick response. And when we moved to production, it was a very smooth process. But in that time, we were able to prove for ourselves, what is Rovo? Because I don't know about you all out there, but there's one thing that you hear from the stage, and it's like, okay, how is it for us? How is it for, on a day-to-day basis, how will we work with this tool? And so we need to sort of better understand how it works, how the information will be presented, what gets missed. So for instance, when I connect it to Google Workspace, will all my documents be immediately indexed and available in Rovo, or is there a bit of a delay? And so being able to put those questions directly to the product team was just awesome. And you get your answers and you realize, okay, these are the things to take into account, and also some concerns that we had around privacy. So we looked at the privacy policy from Atlassian, shared it with my CTO and also our operations director, and we shared that with the relevant folks in our organization, so who took a good look at it. And by the way, as far as such documents go, that one was much easier to consume, to be honest. But it was a concern because we do have data that is for, some of it is relating to children. The sensitive data has already been mentioned by Moon, and so that was important for us to make sure that we were not taking any unnecessary risks. So when we were assured, and this was from like July, August, and we carried also some internal training. We did have some work and educational programs within the organization, thanks to the help also from an external consultancy about education around AI, prompting, prompt engineering, setting expectations about the technology, and also that on top of that, we also had sessions on Atlassian Intelligence and Rovo. And now in January, we then made the decision to turn on Rovo in production. And it's almost like a night and day feeling. There's one sense where Rovo has clearly been worked on and developed. A lot of work has been going into it because it feels, when I use it, I feel like it's got the same name, but it just feels so supercharged now. And a lot of the features are coming in every day, from example with Atlassian Intelligence, where you select text in your Confluence, you right click and you say, okay, let me now tell it to create a table. And already there's a shortcut, there's a table. So these improvements that just make our lives easier and save us time in our work, something that I certainly appreciate. And also I think it's important to mention that we benefited a lot. Being a small team, as I mentioned, we needed help and people to speak to, consult with. And thanks to the Atlassian Engage for Good voluntary program, we've got one of the volunteers stayed with us, and she's been with us for, I think, almost 3 years now, Peggy Graham. And so that was a great resource to be able to actually speak to somebody who works at Atlassian and who will say, sometimes, you know what, I might not know the answer now, but I know someone who does. And it's just been incredible. And I think it's really helped to accelerate our progress. And as I mentioned to you previously, this is clearly a journey. So when we think about AI, it's not an event. I think it's a journey and it's a transformation. Has already been touched on by Pavan and Moon as well, is this idea about change management being part of that and really making sure that it's connected with the values of the organization and how it's implemented.
And I think there's so much in there, well, certainly from the Atlassian Foundation perspective, you know, there's a lot we can relate to in terms of the value that we are getting out of it as well, so absolutely relate to that. And you know, on the deployment side, the due diligence that you did is, I think, what will be on a lot of people's minds, so going through that sandbox environment, reviewing the policies, you know, going through it step by step in alignment with the organization's values to make sure that you're, you know, doing this responsibly. I want to leave a few minutes for questions, so I'm just hoping, I want to look ahead, because that keynote was so inspiring, there's so much announced in that. I'd really love if you could each speak to some of the future use cases that you see for Rovo. Where do you see it could go for your organizations? What future impact do you see it driving for your respective organizations? So Moon, could we briefly start there?
Yeah, I'd love to. So as I mentioned before, Braven's on a journey for operational excellence at this moment. A lot of just efficiency and impact at scale. So something that we're really looking at is, for those of you who have been in a startup environment that has scaled quickly, you know that as an organization grows, things get kind of disconnected at times. Teams are working on things, everybody is going really full out, and the systems don't necessarily keep up. You know, people start figuring out ways to do things, and they might involve copying and pasting and spreadsheets and all of this, because there's not really enough engineering time to build a complete system or analyze the product. People are just trying to scramble and get work done. So often an operational environment that a lot of smaller companies have been in. And we started there for sure. And as we've been growing, some of those patterns have not changed, and they're holding us back. So one thing I was really excited to see as part of the keynote is the automation and studio functionality that's going to be available in the Atlassian platforms. Something we can definitely use an automation platform, and something that is integrated with all of the products and platforms in our ecosystem and has those connectors, combined with agentic AI and the ability to not only use the existing agents, but really write our own and combine them with natural language. It's going to be a game changer if we can utilize that effectively. So I'm really, really excited about that news, and really excited to dig in and start trying to deploy it in the enterprise.
Fantastic. Thanks, Moon. Tapiwa, where do you see this going for you?
As I say, I just feel we're just at the beginning, truly. Because when we look at the lessons learned from the teams that we've been working closely with Rovo, getting their feedback, and the next step is obviously continuing to share back what we're learning with other people in the organization. I also see this as being very much a holistic approach. So for example, when we talk about the privacy concerns, we've got the feature in Atlassian Guard, for example, which has been introduced to help us to identify personally identifiable information and to be able to prevent that from being shared. So being able to work on implementing those as well. And I find it also very motivating when you think about also the features around how tools like Loom AI can be used to help to save time, because we are a global organization, and it's just not possible to always have people meeting at the same time. And now, as Moon also touched on, this tighter integration between the tools and making the ease of use, because I don't know how many times I've heard Confluence is difficult to use. And what is it being compared with? But once you take a moment to go through to actually use the tool and understand how it's used, it's amazing. So, but now when we have this option of being able to use the Loom AI features, tying in with Confluence, and being able to create your Google Docs, it's really heading in the direction that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people in our organization.
It's a long runway, isn't it? So Pavan, what about you from that community-led organization perspective?
Yeah, so we've used it for multiple other cases, and we're seeing good results in those aspects also. Next use case we took up is making up posts in social media. So we used Rovo extensively to call out for the fundraisers. And through A/B testing, we found that the click-through rates and a few other metrics are good for the posts made with the help of Rovo versus the ones which are not made without it. Another task which we are looking at is volunteers. They won't be available all the time. They won't be present all the time. So we use Rovo to send an automated mail, like an email digest every week, and they're able to catch up with what is happening going on in that week in which they're not available. And another task which we used is managing our budget. So we plugged in Rovo to our budgeting numbers, and we are seeing time savings there also. So yeah, we're constantly exploring, and these are the several administrative tasks where we found.
So that's incredible. The first use case you mentioned, so you're using Rovo to develop social media posts, and you did a test, and you found that those were the highest click-through rates were the ones developed by Rovo. So that's an immediate benefit, time saving for your organization.
Yes, definitely. So, like I was saying, so volunteer has to spend a lot of time appealing to the folks, donors and other things. But with simple context sharing that, please, post this in social media to appeal to so-and-so donors and all, Rovo is able to come up with good sentences which are appealing.
Yeah. Rovo is your social media teammate.
Yeah, and we love the feature of the agents. I think there is an agent to come up with the new agents, so we're exploring those also. So that's really thrilling for us to explore all this.
Oh, fantastic. We're nearly out of time. We've got a couple of minutes for one or two questions. So I'll open it to the audience. Yes?
Because you talked a lot about nonprofit work, is Atlassian open to give nonprofit organizations access for free or for discounted prices for their products?
Yeah, excellent question. We have a community license program which does exactly that. And also, Tapiwa and Moon are two of the foundation's partners, and as part of that partnership, they can access our products for free. Any other questions? Yes?
And this could be any of you. What would you do differently if you were starting this all over again back at the beta time? Is there anything you've learned in the process?
Great question.
Yeah, so one thing I would do differently is go back to Atlassian and say we need more Atlassians to help us, to engage with us on this more on a regular basis. So because just appreciating what the foundation is doing, the Atlassian Foundation, and that there is this program for volunteers from the organization to actually work with nonprofits such as ourselves is something that I appreciate. And also, we should have just asked for the licenses a lot earlier.
Any thoughts, Pavan, Moon, on what you do differently?
Not necessarily differently, but something that I found extremely valuable in this process was having someone who is dedicated to thinking about transformation work in your enterprise or organization. We are all super busy, right? We have our day-to-day punch list that we got to get burned through, and thinking about and investing in the future, like how the org is going to work together a year from now, depending on your environment, might not be top of mind when you have all these fires burning or emergency things going on. And that's why I think for us, it's been one key part of the development strategy and deployment strategy has been someone who is accountable and responsible for waking up and going to bed thinking about transformation and how the organization can work together better. And that's been a real help for us.
So, Pavan, are you?
So one thing that comes to our mind is we would have categorized the data as sensitive and not so sensitive data, classified data, so that it will be easier to plug into the Rovo agent. We are doing that now, but for the past 5 years of data, we would have done that differently.
I appreciate that learning. So look, we're just about to wrap up. Could each of you just give us one bullet point tip or insight to leave us with? For others who may be at the start of their Rovo journeys, what would you share?
I'd say don't stop learning. AI, a lot of people are sounding like experts. Not everybody is. And so we're all discovering things about this new tech. But read up on it, test it out, use your sandboxes, see and discover for yourselves, and also setting clear expectations between what Rovo does versus maybe what other tools do will really help in terms of adoption, I think.
Thank you. Pavan, what's your tip?
For organizations of our size, our recommendation is to experiment. Please don't hesitate away from experimenting because from what we see, AI is here to stay. If not now, at least in the next 2 or 3 years, orgs will be adopting them very widely. And there is nothing to lose if we experiment. So if it is not going your way, maybe you could step away from it, but please do experiment.
Fantastic. Moon.
Yeah, just really quick, I'll say that, again, bringing us back to change management, it's hard. and scary for many people. So one thing, and especially when you're trying to drive it top down, one thing that we found successful is creating what I would call a spine throughout the organization to organize and rally around that change. And that involves people at the top, the middle, and also the ICs. And that way, throughout the organization, you have kind of some champions for the work at every level and to help sort of get that buy-in that you need to really get everyone aligned and excited about what's coming down the road.
So manage the change, keep experimenting, don't stop learning. That's the end of our session. Thank you all so much. Please thank our panelists. We have a brain date in an hour if you'd like to join us, or come visit the foundation booth. Thank you all. Enjoy team.